Broadcasting from the studios of WKEN, where every day it's the weekend. It's the Ken Calvert Show with your host, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Casual Studios of WKEN, where every day it's the weekend, and welcome to Monday Memories. Today, February 4th, 2019, is the 71st birthday of Vincent Fournier, or Vincent Fournier, a.k.a. Alice Cooper. I've known Alice Cooper for over 40 years, so I'll keep this one really simple for you. How do I put this? You will not meet a nicer human on the planet. I know I say that a lot, but he truly is just a wonderful guy to be around. He will turn to you and say, "By the way, Ken, how are you doing? How's everything in your life?" And that doesn't happen very often. I will summarize Alice Cooper as, simply put, incredibly gifted. He found a space in rock and roll that hadn't been covered yet. It was a topography, a fabric that was yet to really be discovered. And I know that because I was living up in Ann Arbor back in the late 60s when this was all coming down. He was the first shock rocker, is that a good way of putting it? His looks, his lyrics, and his ability to introduce us to a theatrical revolution. You know what I'm talking about, the guillotine, the snakes, a giant tooth. A show that we all left the building saying, "Wow!" The Ballad of Dwight Fry, man, I'll never forget the Masonic. He was in the straitjacket, and I gotta get out of here, Ballad of Dwight Fry, man. And the cops took him out. We all thought, oh my God, they were actually taking him away. I digress. Alice Cooper's a genius. I wish I could tell you how to figure out how such a normal guy can transcend and morph into the ultimate showman. However, he never forgot the importance of having great musicians around him, great production, guaranteed that he would always leave us, the fans, wanting more. He had a great producer, a great team. He had it all. And I hope you're playing golf, and I hope you're shooting your age. Happy birthday. I hope you shoot a 71, my friend. The interview you're about to hear is one that I did back on December 15th, 2010, when Alice Cooper had been notified that he was going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Calvert.
So much for my exclusive interview.
Hey, you know what? I got done rehearsing, and I have not quit ping-ponging from room to room.
I know.
No, you know what? Let me tell you something. The phone blew up today.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. You know, I love the idea that a Detroit band is in there.
I'm going to go with the obligatory Entertainment Tonight type questions. Number one, when did you find out and how'd you feel?
Well, you know, of course, every year I am plagued with this. How come you're not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, right.
You know, by everybody in every airport, you know. And this year I can finally go, I am, okay? I don't have to answer that question anymore, and that's a big relief. I was afraid I was going to be the Susan Lucci, you know.
The original Alice Cooper band. I got the chills, and I just got them again. Yes.
You know, and I was so proud that it was the original band.
Yeah.
Because that was the band that did all the work. I mean, that was the band that kind of just went through all these stupidness and it did the cutting edge work. So I mean, if it would have just been me, I would have said, I honestly can't do this without the original band.
Right.
You know, they were the ones that got us to where we were.
And then you had this happenstance of everybody being together anyway.
Yeah, you know, it was so crazy. I'm doing this, you know, Christmas pudding show, which is, you know, my charity show I do every year, and I try to put all these people in. I said, well, I've got to do something really interesting. I said, why don't I put the original band? I'll call the original band, and we'll do 7 or 8 songs, and we'll do Train Kept a Rollin', we'll do all the songs we did in high school, you know.
Yeah.
And then we get the news that not only are we nominated, but we're in. You know, and I looked at each other. We kind of looked at each other and went, "Weren't we just in a garage in West Phoenix? You know, learning how to play a Beatles song." You know, it really is pretty amazing.
Your thoughts now? Relief plus joy.
Well, yeah, and it's the fact that you're being voted in by your peers.
Yeah.
It's not a popularity contest. When the people that get these ballots are the same people that are your heroes. You know, you look out there and there's Pete Townsend and there's, you know, Paul McCartney and Jeff Beck, and you know, you're going, holy crap.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that voted on you.
And I was thinking the only way to get into the event itself is to be inducted into the event itself.
I'm telling you, it is like, I think the tickets are $3,000 or something like that to get in. Yeah, it's really an exclusive thing. But, I mean, you know, the great thing is we're going to get up and do 2 songs. You know, we're going to do Schools Out in 18 probably. And how cool is that?
But I was thinking about the things you could do. You don't feel in some way obliged to sing "I Want to Be Elected"?
Which could be the other one, because I mean that's a big tribute to Pete Townsend. That song is, anyways. You know, and at the same time, you know, you sit there and go, what songs are really connected to you forever?
Yep.
And Schools Out in 18 are the
Yep.
2 anthems that have been connected at all times. You know. See, to me, being a Detroit guy, you know, I applaud anything Detroit. You know.
Well, who are you going to have induct you?
Well, you know, I don't know if we really get a choice on that.
No, I think you do.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I think we should dig up Vincent Price. Vincent Price would have been the perfect guy. You know. Well, when I look at the ultimate guy for us would have been, you know, when we look at the whole thing, who did we really learn everything from? Ray Davies. Mm-hmm. We learned everything from the Yardbirds, the Who. You know, I wouldn't balk at Pete Townsend only because of the fact that, you know, I mean, how much did we learn from that guy? Attitude. He was all attitude. You know, that was the one thing. But you know, I mean. To me, I don't care who it is that it introduces us. If they're in the Hall of Fame, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I just think that
maybe Al Kaline.
Yeah. You know, Al would do it. I swear to God, Al would probably do it. But you're going in with Tom Waits and Dr. John, Darlene Love, and Neil Diamond, and I have no problems with Neil Diamond. I really...
First of all, I was flabbergasted. I thought Neil Diamond would have been in on the second year.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I couldn't even believe he wasn't in. And Donovan, and you know, the guy had like 10 top 10 hits. But I mean, he'll get in. He'll be in.
So,
I was really pushing for Laura Nyro because Laura Nyro was my favorite songwriter of all time, next to Burt Bacharach. You know. But I mean, Laura Nyro was like one of those unsung heroes. But Tom Waits is great. I mean, I'm really glad Tom made it.
Hey, I know you're busy as hell, but just for the sake of background for everybody, where did that entire, how did drama, stage, music, darkness,
well,
and the name, how did that all? Just take me in the earliest stages of the formation. Was it by design or was it?
It was natural for us. We were in a band. We put a band together, and we learned. You know, of course, we learned all the British invasion songs. You know, I mean, that was the first thing we learned was all that stuff. And it just occurred to me that we had a natural thing about being theatrical on stage. It was in our blood. I don't know how it was. Dennis was an art major, so was I, so was Glenn. You know, I mean, it was sort of in our blood to not just get up there and sing and do the show, but to make it a little bit twisted, to take it left or right somewhere. And it just kept getting progressively more twisted to the point where we got to that point of just going, you know, if we're going to be out there up against the Doors, up against all these bands, great bands like Love and all these groups in L.A., I said, we can't just go in there as another band. I said, we got to go in there and not with a name that's like the Werewolves or the Spiders or anything like that. I said, what if we went the opposite way? and we were like a little old lady, some, insane old woman called, and the first name I came up with was Alice Cooper. I could have said Betty Johnson or, Martha Smith or anything, but Alice Cooper sounded like a little old lady that would probably poison you. And it stuck. It just stuck. We could not get away from it. It just kept coming up. And we finally just started calling ourselves Alice Cooper, the band. I didn't call myself Alice Cooper, but the band was called Alice Cooper, like Manfred Mann, And then we started going Lizzie Borden, Baby Jane, Alice Cooper. There was a macabre thing to it. And I looked around and I said, look, guys, I said, all the rock heroes. I said, where are the villains? We've got all these Peter Pans and no Captain Hook. I said, let's be Captain Hook. Let's be the arch villains. Let's be Moriarty. Let's be the guys that when Paul McCartney walks into a room, everybody takes a step forward. When Alice Cooper walks into a room, everybody takes a step backwards. And I said, that's what we want to be. The only way to get there is to be a really good band. We're a Detroit rock band. I said, we've got to be as good as any Detroit rock band ever, and then put the icing on the cake. Then give them the guillotine, then give them the gallows. Give them something when they go home the next day or when they go to school the next day, they're going to go, holy crap, they had a 35-foot snake on stage,
right.
and they cut Alice's head off, and my parents hate them. As long as their parents hated us, we were fine.
And I remember being at the Masonic with Ballad of Dwight Fry, and I was totally taken by surprise when the security guards took you away. And I mean, and I remember it was like, that was very believable at the time.
Yes. The great thing was the more notorious we got, the more there was no internet then, so everything was urban legend. So everything that we did got blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
By the time we got to England, they banned us in England.
Yeah.
For no good reason. And, of course, the record went right to number one. And they sold out every ticket there could be sold out. And we were this phenomena. But when they came to see us, though, everybody walked out going, wow, what a great show. All we had to do was get them there. And then we could sell it,
Wow.
But again, if we did a 10-hour rehearsal, 9 hours was on the music. Because we had to be as good as any of those British bands. I mean, that to us was the important thing, was being as good as those bands.
First of all, after all these years, I was never aware of the fact that the band, Alice Cooper, was the band, the name of the band.
I became Alice because everybody just started calling me Alice.
But shouldn't it be Alice Cooper and the
Nick and Old Lace.
Or the badly behaving kids or something.
Exactly. But for some reason, we liked the idea that we were Alice Cooper. And somebody said, well, who is Alice? And we would go, well, we are. People just assumed I was Alice Cooper, so I changed my name and I became Alice Cooper.
But if you were to say that you take credit for one thing in music, it would be bringing what to rock and roll?
Spectacle. We brought spectacle to rock, and nobody even used down lighting or very lights before us. I mean, we brought all that. On Billion Dollar Babies, we were the first ones to use that kind of lighting system and the whole thing. Now everybody uses it, But you can imagine before that, everything was, sort of like light shows, the liquid light shows and everything. When they saw Alice, all of a sudden it was this, what is that? It's like, it's a spectacle. And the more money we made, the more of a spectacle we made out of it. And I think that's, what Lady Gaga's doing now. And I think that's what everybody's doing now. But nobody did it in 1968.
Do you think when you mention Townsend and with this Scoop, when you mention Townsend, I think of the Southfield High School Amboy Dukes Unrelated Segments program, and of course you went to see Keith destroy his drum kit.
Yes.
And that was sort of like, we're this angry, but at the end of the day, they weren't that angry. People came to see that.
Yeah, and he was on top of it, though. What made it work was the fact that he was the best drummer in the world. And Townsend was the best stage guitarist in the world. I think that when you heard things like Keith Moon, driving his car into a swimming pool and things like that, he could back it up because he was the best drummer. If it was some little band that was kind of, squirrely little band and they did that, everybody goes, so what? But when you got the best drummer and the best stage guitarist up there and they do that, you go, cool.
Not to mention a pretty good bass player.
Everybody in that band.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Talked to Townsend when they lost Entwistle. He says, we lost the entire right side of the sound of our show. He says, nobody plays bass like Entwistle. He was the entire sound of the whole right side of the arena. And he says, other bass players don't do that. And I said, boy, I know. Hey, how do you replace that?
We were talking about Boris the Spider the other day.
The Who did some very odd singles. Think of Magic Bus, Happy Jack. They made some very odd singles, but it was they were between being R&B and very pop at the very beginning.
Oh yeah, Substitute.
Substitute was a very pop record.
And then of course the anthem was My Generation.
Oh, which is like still. See, School's Out, holds up.
Anthem.
Like My Generation because everybody relates to it. My son, when he was 16 and heard My Generation, he went, that's my generation.
Hey, let me ask you something real quick about School's Out. We got no class, we got no principles. Who authored that?
I wrote all the lyrics on that.
That's genius. And what about No More Mr. Nice Guy?
Nice Guy. I wrote all the lyrics on all those songs because I basically thought as a lead singer, since I'm not playing any instrument, it's my responsibility to come up with the lyrics and the arrangements and and my instrument is going to be that, you know. And it just so happened that that was something I was good at, was playing with words.
Yeah, the Reverend Smith, he recognized me and punched me in the nose.
He was actually our track coach.
Is that right?
Mr. Emmett Smith was our journalism teacher and our track coach, and he was a Mormon elder.
Uh-huh.
And he was the only guy that really did kind of believe in us. The same guys that were in the band, were all three of the guys in the band were like the state's top 10 milers. We were all like running 4:30, 4:28 in the mile on weekends.
You were running a 4:30 mile?
Yeah, I was 7th on the team at 4:30. We had a guy running 4:02, 4:07. We were unbeatable in track and cross country at Cortez. And so that's how I actually met Dennis Dunaway and John Spear, our original drummer. I was a 4-year letterman. I was on the track and cross country team. Yeah.
Hey, congratulations, Alice.
Hey, man, I'm glad it was you called.
Yeah, listen, I waited, but I would have waited till midnight, believe me. But this is cherished, and I can't thank you enough. And
well, we talked about this before, and we talked about the Hall of Fame, and we just kind of laughed about it. But now that it's a reality, it's fun to talk to you about it because for a long time I was going, well, I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, you knew it. No, we all knew it was going to happen, and now I can rest. I can.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. All right, man. Listen, congratulations.
Okay, man.
All right, I'll tell
everybody down there at the station. I know everybody's pulling for it.
You bet. Thanks so much, Alice.
Okay, man.
All right, you be well now.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
You can subscribe to the Ken Calvert Show podcast on Apple iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. It's also available by going directly to www.thekencalvertshow.com. You can reach Ken at kencalvertpodcast@gmail.com. The preceding program is the property of Ken Calvert and may not be rebroadcast without the written permission of Ken Calvert.